Welcome to the beautiful yet mendokusai world of Japanese culture for Valentine's Day. The Japanese Valentine's Day used to be the day to confess your love to your crush. Not anymore. It used to be the day to sow your seeds of short-term investments. Not anymore. Now it is a celebration of self-love, and let me tell you why. We go back in time to 1936 Kobe. Kobe was an international training hub for a long time because of its ports and because there was a foreign settlement there as early as 1868. Kobe was one of the doorways for Western cultures to come in. Morozoff is a confectionery company that was started in Kobe in 1931 by a family of Russian refugees called the Morozoff family. In 1936, they launched their first Valentine's campaign and urged people to give chocolate to their loved ones, but it didn't work. Jump to 1951, Morozoff tried again, this time featuring chocolate packaged in special red heart-shaped boxes. The Hankyu department store group, which is strong in Western Japan, loved their idea, and Valentine chocolate sales became an annual thing in Western Japan, the Kansai region. So Valentine's in Japan started in Kansai. Over in Eastern Japan, the Kanto region, things didn't go very smoothly. The Mary's Chocolate Company, which is a high-end confectionery company that was founded in 1950, launched a Valentine's sale at the Shinjuku Isetan department store in 1958, but it flopped. They only sold like 5 chocolate bars. It worked in Kansai. Why does it work here? Are Kanto people deprived of oxytocin? They probably are. But they kept doing it every year. They made chocolate in the shape of hearts. They tried narrowing down the target. They said, from women to men. Finally, in 1965, the Isetan department store came fully on board. They started having these Valentine chocolate fair like they do today. But still, Valentine chocolate sales were not significantly different from regular times. In the late 1970s, the Japanese confectionery industry was still relentlessly trying, but they were like, Kanto people must be cold-blooded. I think that's what I'll report to upper management. Why didn't it work? No one knows for sure, but I suspect it was at least partly due to this culture belief represented in this Bushido book called Hagakure. It was a book about how a samurai should be, and it was a documentation of lessons from this die-hard samurai called Yamamoto Tsunetomo. He wrote a How to Be a True Samurai book because it was 100 years into a peaceful era without any wars, and many samurai were starting to slack off with their duties, which is to train themselves so that they're ready to fight anytime for their employer. He says things like, Bushido to you wa shiru koto to mitsuketari, which means the way of a samurai is to die. I don't know if he just loves to die, but he in fact tried to commit suicide when his boss died, like many samurai did in the feudal times. He didn't only because it was illegal by the 18th century. And this book became recommended reading nationwide after Japan modernized and started participating in wars in Asia. The content was useful to brainwash Japanese people as soldiers. So when this guy talked about love and romance in his book, he said, 恋の至極は忍ぶ恋と見立て申し候。相手からは恋の丈が引くし、一生忍んで思いしすることこそ恋の本意なれ。Basically, it means once you have sex, your affection wanes and it's downhill from there. True love is all about keeping your emotions within yourself all the way to your grave. We live in very different times. Why did it occur to the interviewer that he should ask about love to this guy? I don't know. But nevertheless, this type of thinking affected Japanese people's views on love and romance. So telling Japanese people, buy chocolate at this department store where everyone sees you and give it to the person you love and declare your affection, it was not going to happen. That's my guess of why only 5 chocolate bars were sold. But in the late 1970s, a miracle occurred. Some comic magazines targeting young girls seem to have written something about a magic ritual where your love will manifest if you confess your love to a boy with a box of chocolate on Valentine's Day. But again, Japanese people didn't like to be open about their love interests, so these comic magazines told these girls to put the box of chocolate in the boy's desk at school. So teenage girls all over Japan suddenly started shoving chocolate up boys' desk on February 14th. Now, boys don't read girls' comic books, so I suspect that in the early stages of this ritual, I bet boys had no freaking clue what was going on. Some good-looking boys must have gotten several boxes from different girls all the same day. He was probably more scared than flattered. But this method carried the risk of not being noticed within Valentine's Day. I mean, I wish I could show you how cluttered my desk is. So gradually, some girls started handing Valentine chocolate in person. It does require much more courage, but it did set up a good opportunity to ask a boy out on a date. So Valentine's Day became the day to confess your love in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Either adult women took the idea into the workplace at the same time, or these girls who were doing these rituals grew up and Valentine chocolate became a universal thing to buy and give in Japan. So it took over 30 years since Morozoff for Valentine's to become a thing in Japan. Now, adults make things complicated. Valentine's Day at Japanese workplaces was ugly. Until like the 2000s or even the 2010s, changing jobs was not a thing in Japan. You joined a company out of school and everyone was expected to stay in that company until retirement. Even now, the average Japanese person continues working for a workplace for 11.9 years, while, for example, people in the US stay in a company for 4.2 years. So at workplaces, everyone tried to keep a good relationship with everyone else because you're going to be working with them for a long time. And romance was not considered favorable from management sides. Everyone knew that if the company found out that you were dating a colleague in the same department, HR was going to transfer one of you to a branch office in the countryside or something. It's illegal for companies to do that now, but still, dating changes the dynamics. What if you broke up? It's going to be awkward. So it was common knowledge to avoid dating a colleague, but if you did fall in love, you dated stealthily until the day you announced that you were getting married. That was the rule of thumb. Now, if you like a guy at work, he's probably liked by other women too. So if you don't confess your love to him, other women will get to him first. So women needed to give chocolate. But if you give chocolate to only one guy, it's gonna be too obvious. So what they did was prepare a real deal chocolate, or what they call honmei choco, and also a bunch of these, what we would call consolation chocolates, or giri choco, for all the other male colleagues. They needed to keep the cost down because these are just decoys, right? So while a honmei choco was bought at high-end confectionery stores like Godiva, giri choco were bought at like convenience stores. So the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s were like the golden age of chocolate sales. Everyone was buying chocolate for everyone else, not just their crush, but also their family, friends, and colleagues. Many terms were birthed around this tradition, like honmei choco is chocolate for your crush. It translates to something like the real deal chocolate. Giri choco is chocolate for people who you work or study with, nothing more. And this literally translates to duty chocolate. Tomo choco is chocolate for friends. Gyaku choco literally means reverse chocolate, so it refers to chocolate given from men to women on Valentine's Day. Department stores everywhere cleared like half of a floor to set up booths for all these chocolate confectionery retailers. And when I was young, I went to these fairs and I honestly thought spending money to buy all these tasty looking chocolate for everyone but yourself must be painful. So mai choco, or chocolate for myself, started to become a thing too. Department stores began telling customers, 自分へのご褒美に reward yourself with fine chocolate. So chocolate sales skyrocketed every Valentine's. But around the 2010s, there was yet another tidal shift in the Japanese Valentines. And I saw this firsthand because I was working at a company back then. So until like 2018 or 19, there was a tradition at the company where all female staff got chocolate for all the male employees. The company was still small. There were like only 12 people. But as the company grew bigger and younger staff came in, I think the cost of getting something for everyone started to become ridiculous. So one Valentine's, one young girl was like, no one is getting anything for anyone from this year. Got it! And it stopped. No more giri choco. Plus, there was an added layer of complication because of White Day. March 14th, a month after Valentine's Day, is White Day in Japan. This was a pure commercial event created by this major confectionery association in Japan in 1978. They proposed that men who were given chocolate by women on Valentine's Day give back marshmallow. Why marshmallow? Because it's a commercial event. They'll tell you whatever. Now, there's an interesting reflection of culture here. When Japanese people feel indebted to someone, they try to return the favor as soon as possible, as if to level the indebtedness to each other. So if you invite a Japanese person to your home, it's likely that they'll bring a small gift, like a box of sweets. So men, when they got chocolate from a woman and felt the need to give something back, they were like, what should I get her? How soon is not weird? How much should the gift be? Questions. So I think the White Day event was welcome. On March 14th, marshmallow. It was the clarity men needed. But Marshmallow. Even men would think that. So in the 1980s or 90s, some women's magazine just arbitrarily decided it's good manners to give a gift that's worth 3 times the value of the chocolate you receive for Valentine's Day. So if a man received a girichoko, a consolation chocolate, that's worth about 1,000 yen, he was expected to give something that's worth 3,000 yen back. If you got a serious honmei choco that's worth about 5,000 yen, you gave something back that was worth over 15,000 yen. So some Japanese women started turning Valentine's Day into a day of making short-term investments. They could expect to get some fashion items like bags and accessories just by handing out chocolate to all the guys they knew. Most people were financially well off in the 80s and 90s, so returns were quite probable. But now that the economy is not great, I think people are pretending that White Day never existed. I mean, it's not a real tradition. It's not like Valentine's. So now, everyone's happy. Men and women are giving chocolate to people who matter. But that doesn't mean the Japanese Valentine's has finally become a day to celebrate romantic relationships. It shows in the data. In a 2024 study by the women's magazine Fujin Gaho surveying 4,000 women, it was found that 61% of them bought Mai Choco, chocolate for themselves. And their spending for Mai Choco went over their spending for honmei choco, the chocolate for their crush. An average of 3,352 yen for me and 3,131 yen for him. Me comes first. I mean, it's totally logical. Which person is more important in this relationship? Me or my boyfriend? Me. Which person worked hard to get this luxurious handmade chocolate? Me. So now, as of 2025, the Japanese Valentine's Day is a celebration of self-love. Happy Valentine's.